All right. Hey, YouTube, I'm Lucky, and it's time for the Trials Meta Report. This is a series I've been doing for a very long time now, where I go over the data and the analytics from Trials to help you go flawless in the future, to help you understand what's the meta, what are the strongest weapons in the game, and nothing too crazy to show you here for this week comparative to the last few weeks. I have them all up on the board here, okay? You can see 2 weeks ago, last week, and just this week in Trials, and you can see that the data is pretty similar and pretty comparable. This happens a lot from season to season. When a new season starts, we see a lot of shake up and shifts in the meta for maybe the first 4 weeks, and then for the last 8 weeks it tends to solidify, and we tend to understand and know what the best weapons are. Of course, if something new is added, that will shake things up a little bit, but overall we tend to know the way things are going to work after about the first month of the start of each season, when new weapons are introduced or when the sandbox changes. So we can see here Felwinter's Lie across the board on the top, #1 most used. Of course, it's getting nerfed soon here, and we know how it's going to be nerfed. And when it is nerfed, it probably won't be used as much. Along with that, you can see that the Igneous Hammer is the #2 most used weapon 3 weeks in a row. The Steady Hand, 3 weeks in a row. And along with that, the True Prophecy is also very high up there. And all those 120s are getting a slight nerf. It's going to be crazy, okay? They're getting nerfed. The Quick Draw is getting nerfed, which is something that is regularly used on these 120s. And on top of that, they're getting a range nerf. And so it's going to be a crazy time. I really think that this Dead Man's Tale, which is on the board here in the top 10 for the last 3 weeks, is going to rise up in the charts. It might even be the most used weapon. It might be the most powerful weapon in the game for an entire season. We'll see how long it lasts until Bungie decides to nerf it or adjust it in some way. Let me know in the comment section below. Would you be happy with a Dead Man's Tale meta? Would that be exciting or interesting to you? Everyone flying around, shooting scouts, hip firing and stuff. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, but we'll see how it happens, because it's looking like that's the way the meta is going to be starting next season. So make sure you get your Dead Man's. Make sure you get a God roll of it. I think right now the best one you want to use is Vorpal, so that way you can clap supers when they try to chase you down. But there's a few other rolls you could probably get, I suppose, as well. That being said, though, let's look at the other top 10 weapons. We can see that Bastion is still in there. Bastion is getting slightly nerfed and adjusted. We'll see how that goes. The Frozen Orbit actually made it into the top 10. Shout out to the Frozen Orbit. Very nice. That's one of the Crucible drop snipers. And happy to see enough people are getting a good enough roll of it and using it. It is definitely one of the best snipers. I think that the Frozen Orbit will eventually take over the Adored, because it can get some better rolls. And we'll see the Frozen Orbit get more kills each week than the Adored. The Adored is just so easily accessible to everyone, being a ritual weapon. But I think that the Frozen Orbit is a better sniper out there. So keep that in mind. And the Igneous Hammer Adept squeezing it into the #10 slot there. So that's the data for the last 3 weeks. The other thing to keep in mind is the actual overall numbers. Okay, here we have it. Last week we had 300,000 players, rather. And this week we had 245,000 players. So a significant decrease in the overall player base. I'm going to say it's largely due to the loot this week wasn't nearly as desirable as last week. Hopefully Bungie can, at least keep something interesting in there. I feel like when there's a desirable weapon at 3 wins, people definitely want to play Trials, and there's a lot of people playing it. Or at least put a desirable weapon at 5 wins. If you got the Messenger, the hand cannon at 5 wins, a good amount of people feel like they can get 5 wins. Let me know in the comment section below, how far can you make it in Trials? If, let's say, for example, the Igneous Hammer was 5 wins this week, would you go for it? Would you go for 5 wins? Or do you have a hard time even getting the 5 wins? I feel like most people can get 3, maybe 5, if they can put together a solid enough team. But we can see a significant decrease in the player base due to the loot, in my opinion. And obviously, we're getting towards the end of the season. It's not nearly as exciting, but we did see 400,000 just a few weeks ago, and that was like mid-season, so keep that in mind. I think that the loot really drives people into Trials. If the loot's not good, people ain't playing Trials, So that's the way it be. And hopefully this next week we get some seriously good loot, because we don't want to see anything below 100,000 players. It looks like we're going to finish the season off pretty solid. There's about 4 weeks left, and hopefully we can stay above 200,000 for the last 4 weeks. That would actually be a huge W for Bungie and for the health of the Trials playlist overall. I would actually be really excited for that. I absolutely hate when Trials get the player base or the population gets so low. It gets super miserable. You start matching the same teams back to back. You start matching people from across the world, latency issues, and so on and so forth. It's no good. But there it is. That's your Trials meta report. A little bit of a short and sweet one this time. Make sure to subscribe with notifications on if you did enjoy, though. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Later.